I'm here to introduce my friend Brian Glass, partner at Ben Glass Law, lawyer, entrepreneur, and mastermind leader. Um, Brian and I have connected because we wear a couple of different hats in what we do every day. Brian, great to have you on here. I'm excited to dive into stuff with you.
Hey, Ethan, good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. So, you know, today's today's podcast is going to be primarily focused on what I would describe as two hats. You wear lawyer cap just like a lot of our audience does and focuses on how cases move through the pipeline, but you also wear business cap by working on your business, and you even encourage and train other people on how to do that better. Um, I feel like people might want to hear a little more on the law firm hat side, just like evolving in a family business. So I'm going to kind of start there. So, what was it like stepping in with your dad's firm, and what were some early growing pains with that process?
Yeah. Sure. So I've been practicing since 2008. And the first firm that I lasted at was first time firm that I started at, I
Okay.
lasted about 4 months. It was a general practice hourly billing firm. And as a now contingency fee lawyer, like that clearly wasn't the right path for me.
Mhm.
But after that, I landed for about 10 years at a car crash general injury firm. And then in 2019, a couple of things happened. And I left that practice and came and joined my dad. So been with him now for 5.5 years. And I run our car crash practice. He runs the long-term disability appeals practice. And we have grown the business in the last 5.5 years by about 400%. So about roughly 20, 25% year over year growth, added people and complexity, which is it's constant growing pains. But you asked about the early ones. The early ones were, stepping into an established firm that had clients, but not real good systems and processes. It's kind of the classic thing that you see lawyers joke about with like just naming conventions on files, right? You have uh USAA demand final version 2, right? And stuff was just spread out everywhere throughout the system. And so coming from a firm that had some organization but different organization into a firm that had an entirely different naming convention, and some lawyers that essentially were running their own practices within the firm, like that was an early growth pain. Is okay, we want to actually grow a business and we don't want to be 2 lawyers, 3 lawyers just growing our own individual silos within the law firm. We have to have streamlined systems and practices, even as basic as naming conventions, but throughout the rest of, and we met or connected at the HONA conference with the rest of all of this CRM world. And in 2025, it's like, no shit, of course you have a CRM. But in 2019, not everybody had one. And I think firm that I came from, we ran everything on the back of Windows. Like everything was in file folders on Windows. Um, and we weren't that far removed from having literal file folders and everything in manila folders and filing cabinets. So
Just
the
a side question
organizations have
for
come a
you.
long way.
Did you work for your dad like as like a 16-year-old, or like back when you were like
Oh
young?
yeah. Yeah.
So you did like the scan to the cloud project for your dad, right?
Probably. I'm thinking like we licked and sticked envelopes and we were mailing newsletters, and one of the things that he is sort of known for was info product books, right? So back before this click to buy, a car crash lawyer was very popular. People would have a very long tail and they would contact us first to ask for some information about how does the process work.
Mhm.
And we had this machine in the office, Ethan, where we print out 20 pages and we had like a little glue binder book machine. You make your own book.
That's awesome.
Drop it in the thing, the glue would heat up, and then you put the thing in the mail. So that's what I did back in 2016. I don't know that I ever scanned anything to the cloud back then. But all kinds of administrative stuff within the family business. Yes.
It's funny because there's not many people I like can connect with on that, because like I worked at my dad's firm every summer, through the probably the same period you were, and it was like the changes year over year and over every 5 years of where the practice has gone since, the mid 90s to today. My dad used to speak on Needles case management conference, podiums the way that you're speaking
Mhm.
on Hona, and it's just changed so much. So, my job there was just the scan to the cloud project. That was multiple summers. Just all right, we're moving to the cloud. Got to scan everything. So that's like the best 16, 15-year-old job you could get at a law firm.
Yeah. I spent a summer, I vividly remember this, in early days of the internet, copying and pasting lawyers' names and addresses and phone numbers. And this is probably pretty black hat, and putting them somewhere on our website because not everybody had a website, right? And so if you were looking up Ethen, but Ethen didn't have a website, you might find me. That
That
was one of the things I did back in the late 90s.
I mean, I was taking clips out of newspapers for trials of advertisements, and it's going back to where it was to where it is now. Now
Mhm.
you're stepping into a culture that did well. Whether they were binding their own books or moving and scanning to the cloud. I mean, your dad did great and had a functioning firm for a while. So, there was a culture in place, there was technology stack in place. Like, how did you approach that modernization that, there's a lot of people that might be listening to this that are in practice with their parents or,
Mhm.
considering doing that, or at a firm that they think needs to modernize, want to say something, but is like, yeah, I'd rather just save it in four places than have a problem with this. What
Yeah.
do you say to?
Yeah. No, exactly right. So lawyers, and especially lawyers in leadership, love the idea of organization and systems, but they hate being made to operate systems. And so, if you're stepping in and you're trying to organize somebody else's files, like the best thing you can get for them is a person to do it for them, and a way to make it easy. So, an executive assistant or a VA or somebody who will do all of the organizational stuff that oftentimes the lawyer or the leader thinks is either below them or not necessary for them to do. Below them is probably not the right thing, but not necessary for them to do, because we think so fast and we move on to the next thing,
Mhm.
often without saving thing in the system the way that we want everybody else to. And so the easiest way to make that change for somebody who you can't get on board is to get them somebody else to help them with all of that.
Mhm. There's a balance of scale and uniformity and saying this is how we do it, or there's other law firms you can apply to. And like, how do you guys draw that line of, hey, the firm macro needs this whole thing to happen,
Mhm,
can't achieve our goals without it,
mhm.
and we need you on board, person with 25 years experience who's done it the same way 24 years straight. How do you get that person on board with this is the way?
The only person I have like that in my firm is my dad. So, and it was through getting him an EA who helps him with all of that. We primarily these days are made up of relatively young people and people who are relatively new to the legal industry, outside of the lawyers. But most of our staff, probably has less than 5 years of experience within the legal industry. And I don't know if that's by design or it's because we are now a little bit tech forward, and and you do, in order to survive with us, you do have to have adaptability and flexibility, because there's a new software every year we're implementing something new, we're making some kind of a change, and that none of these systems do everything you want them to do. And so you have a file line and a hona and a lead docket and an intaker and whatever else, right? And the team just has to be comfortable in an organization like that with swapping one of those out just about every year.
Okay. So, talking just lawyer cap for a second. All right. So, what like case handling do you do today? And it could be zero, it could be a lot. I'm just curious.
It depends on the week. My ideal cases now is being involved in high level strategy on large cases, right? That doesn't mean I won't swoop back into a $10,000, $12,000 case and do a little bit of client management. I really dislike, I call it like talking to clients midstream when there's too many variables, right? Because you can go down all these hypothetical. What happens if I need surgery? What happens if I this? What happens if I can't go back to work? It's like, well, none of that has happened yet. So whatever answer I give you is going to be dissatisfying. And we've trained the team to have a lot of those conversations, and we can point them back to resources either on YouTube or in some print materials that we have. But I dislike having those conversations. What I think I'm really good at is helping clients make decisions about complicated issues in their case once I have all of the information, right?
So do you
Um,
describe it as like a broad brush? Like, give me kind of how you describe that.
but how I describe that. Um, I was talking to a guy today who has um, a high level security clearance, but the insurance company doesn't want to resolve his case, right? They're not offering something reasonable for settlement. I'm like, listen, you have to balance your best alternative to a negotiated settlement is going to trial, right? You have to balance that against here's what the offer is, and maybe a mediation or maybe an arbitration. Now, you want all of the confidentiality and security of not doing this in a public forum, and you want the finality of having it over and done with so that you don't end up in the public forum. And so, given those two options, like mediation probably is not a great result for you because you don't know whether you're going to get finality. But if we can negotiate an arbitration, even with like a high low agreement, where I can get you a hearing in front of a judge, you can effectively have your day in court, but we can do it all in a confidential manner where nobody's going to walk into the courtroom. There's not going to be a written record, and then we can sign a release that says this is confidential and nobody can ever tell anybody. Like that satisfies all of the things that you have. And that's just one example. But there's clients in our world for whom getting the most money for my case sometimes is not the most important thing. Sometimes it's getting it done quickly. Sometimes it's confidentiality. Sometimes it's the feeling that you got some justice from the other side that's not just dollars from a Geico or for State Farm. And so understanding that clients have different emotional triggers and needs is something that I think I'm fairly good at. And then talking them into or out of a good decision or a bad decision. My team brought me in the other day because I'm good at rejecting cases. Hey, we
That's
have we
that's
have this.
really
We'll say that again.
that's a really important one. I'll get into it in a sec.
Yeah. So we had this call from somebody in the long term disability practice area, and she didn't want to pay us what we charge, and we'd rejected her once, and she came back and said, "Well, what if I do pay the full third?" And said, nobody who ever comes back and who tried to negotiate on the fee and then changes their mind is ever going to be satisfied because you're going to get to the end of the case and they're still going to try to negotiate the fee. So they're like, how can we reject her without, without her walking away pissed off and leaving a 1-star review? So, well, let me get involved in this. So we have a 30-minute discussion with her. At the end of that, she says, like, is this because I tried to negotiate on the fee with you? Yeah, in part, right? Um, but also you have these other problems in your case. I just happen to be, I think, pretty good at explaining to people why we can't help them. And I think it's important if you can't help somebody, rather than just reject them and send them back to Google or refer them somewhere, to tell them why, right? I never want to be the person, and you've gotten these calls, I'm sure. Hey, Brian, I talked to Ethan about my case. He says it's a really great case, but his bandwidth is just too stretched right now. He can't take it on. He thinks it'd be perfect for you. And there are lawyers out there that will give that bullshit response to a prospective client and then try to dump them on somebody else. And then you've got to explain like why you also don't want to help. I think it's a far kinder thing to just tell the person why they don't have a case and then allow them to go get a second opinion if they want to. But I think as lawyers, like it's part of our pro bono service is explaining to people that's not how it works.
Yeah, and I think people are thicker skinned than we give them credit for. Like, as long as you just call them and talk to them and be
Yes.
direct about, why, people understand. And then you can say, you have this much time to go seek another lawyer. I can send you to a couple if you want. That is a value added service that, almost my whole business was built off of for a while.
Mhm.
But uh for the listeners that are, sitting on the sideline right now, that are considering either going and working with their parent or into more of the business cap, there's a lot of pressure on us as attorneys to practice law.
Mhm.
Just among our peers, I have felt it where there's this just pride when you talk to other lawyers. I am a trial lawyer. I am this, I do this much, I have this many cases on my plate, and
Mhm.
actually doing the practicing. What do you tell somebody that maybe they're like, all right, like I like it, but I want to draw my line on escalations like Brian does. I want to draw my line on high,
Mhm.
value cases with a broad brush. Like, how do you tell someone what's the right balance of wearing lawyer cap
Mhm.
versus, marketing cap and business cap and finance cap, whatever else you want to wear?
Well, if you're fortunate enough to have that optionality in your life where you can design, and not everybody is there, and not everybody is there right now, but where you can design for you what would be the perfect day or week, then you have to give yourself permission to do that without regard to what everybody else says a lawyer should be. I mean, look around the people that you went to law school with. I would bet probably a third of them aren't even in the legal field anymore. And the two-thirds who still are, there's plenty of ways to be a lawyer. You can write contracts, you can draft wills, you can be a settlement lawyer, you can be a trial lawyer. First time I ever heard about pre-litigation attorneys, I was like, what the hell is that? Turns out it's a whole thing, you
Yeah.
know, guiding people through medical treatment. And it's something that people need after a car crash. So there's hundreds of different ways to be a lawyer. And the longer that you build your own career around what everybody else expects, that just the longer you're going to be unhappy. And so if you're fortunate enough to find yourself in a position where you can create for yourself what you want to be doing week in and week out, then spending some time in thought about like how actually do I want to construct this thing? And then what pieces do I need around me so that I can only focus on the highest and best use of my time that brings me the most joy and or money.
Yep, the balance of what you're good at and what you like and what you're, making money with is a pretty happy balance. Taking a little bit of a transition here, Brian. Let's talk a little bit about the mastermind.
Mhm.
So, for those of us who are listening, those of them, we'll cut this. For those people who are listening right now, you may not realize this. We're on a call right now with one of the original masterminds in the legal industry. I want Brian. Why don't you tell us about it?
Well, to be fair, the son of one of the original masterminds in
You,
the
you
industry.
know you
So
know where I'm going with it.
yeah, I know. I got you. But Ethan, I am constantly afraid that people are going to see me as Morn on third base, thought he hit a triple, and so so I have to go back and say that
I mean, I work for
whatever. And I get called Ben more than I would like to admit. So I just yes, son of one of the original masterminds. So we run an organization now called Great Legal Marketing. It started as a way to teach lawyers to write better Yellow Pages ads, if you would believe that, and how to compete in the
I
direct
believe.
marketing, direct mail space. And it's transitioned over the years to a more holistic, how do you run a practice and how do you attract what we call your avatar clients? How do you put marketing into the world that attracts the kinds of clients that you actually want to see walking through the door in your practice? And that again starts with thinking about, which most lawyers have not done, what kinds of clients do I want to see walking through the door in my practice? And in the car crash practice, it's not necessarily people that got run over by a drunk FedEx driver, right? It has to do with demographics, psychographics, and geographics of your ideal client. And then designing marketing that speaks to that person and repels everybody else as much as you can. And so we run two mastermind groups, two in-person mastermind groups, one for lawyers who are doing less than $1 million in revenue a year, one for lawyers generally who are doing more than $1 million in revenue a year. And so we meet quarterly in our office in Fairfax, Virginia. And then we have a big annual event that's coming up on October the 23rd through the 25th. It's called the Great Legal Marketing Summit. It's going to be right by Dulles Airport, super easy to get into and out of.
Nice. When was that again?
October 23rd through the 25th.
Nice. That's
And
great.
you can get your ticket at glmsummit.com.
Yeah, and we'll put all these links where
Yes.
where this is posted. What are some pain points that you're seeing consistencies with people who are involved in the mastermind?
Yeah. Hiring is number one. Number one complaint is can't find good lawyers. it seems to me to be easy now to find good administrative help and good help with the team, either in the US or abroad. But the number one complaint that I hear over and over and over is inability to hire good associates.
What do you think is the needle mover for the people that say that and the people
Yeah.
that don't say that?
The needle mover for the people that say that. So I think that the people that have trouble hiring lawyers are people that don't think about it until they need to hire a lawyer, right? And the law firms that always seem to have a line out the door of people that want to work with them are the people that have worked on developing relationships, particularly with younger lawyers, um, in times where you did not need somebody, and have done a good job of going into the community and demonstrating that your place is the kind of law firm that people would actually want to work at, and is not just another, commoditized place that'll pay you maybe $10,000 more than you're making at your current job. And so, and this is it's a hard truth, and we're confronting it a little bit too. I'm having a hard time hiring an associate because if I look back, I haven't done a good job of staying in front of people that are 1 to 7 years into the practice in Northern Virginia. And so I just don't have relationships with them right now. And you put a job on Indeed, and you're going to attract people that are unhappy in their current position and are looking for jobs on Indeed, right? If you were designing your perfect new hire, probably be somebody who's happy where they are and good at what they do, and would want maybe some more opportunity or a chance to try better cases. But it's probably not somebody who's actively unhappy and looking, right? And that's what you get when you wait, as we did, um, until you needed to hire somebody to go start thinking about hiring somebody.
So the way that through my superstar paralegal, she referred me a former attorney. He's my comp attorney. My second attorney, I worked with at my previous job, so relationship. The third one, I actually got through DMing people on LinkedIn,
Mhm.
shameless. Uh, I feel like hiring before you need it is very scary, um, and not cheap, frankly. Um, but over time, if you have the ability to distribute a caseload and have it not be overwhelming, but it takes pressure off of your team and it fills maybe a new area for you. Like I just hired my third lawyers out in Pittsburgh. So for us, it expanded the state so we could take on more cases.
Mhm.
And it took off cases that were certain level of value from the other two attorneys. We're grappling with this right now, but our strategy's been a little ahead of where we need to be. How do you like signal I need one now so you can be ahead of where you need to be?
In hindsight, it's really easy, right? It's so easy in hindsight to go, "Oh, I should have hired that person 6 months ago." But when you're in the thick of it, and you're bringing on somebody, at a six figure or a $200,000 salary, well, that's 8,000, 16,000 a month, right? It causes some cash flow issues. And so you're exactly right. It's really scary to go out and hire the next person. I think what you just described is doing it smartly, doing it in a way that expands the pie and doesn't, assume that you have this static pile of cases that you're not going to have to carve off and give to the fifth lawyer, or however you're doing it. Um, I think it is really challenging to get the timing right on when to hire somebody else. And if I had
Very
to say that
and
again.
very challenging, at least in personal injury, because like the cash flow hasn't hit yet. So they're not revenue generating usually for
Mhm.
what? What do you guys mark? 3 months, 4 months?
9 to 18.
So worse than that.
Yeah. No, I mean, case comes in the door is not, 6 months on the very short end, but most of our cases are going to be 9 to 18 months.
Yeah.
Um, and you're right, but good data drives better decision making, right? And so if you look back 9 months ago, you are signed, and you 9 months ago were signing more cases than you were 18 months ago, then you're going to be in a better position going forward. And you do need that help, right? there's a lot of stuff that paralegals can do, or admin can do to work up a case in the early stages of it, but they can't file lawsuits, they can't go to court, they can't take depositions for you. And so having a good understanding of the number of cases in your pipeline and the size of those cases really helps. And so we're really wrapping our arms around that. We divide cases up when they come in the door based on category: soft tissue, fracture, brain injury, drunk driving cases, and we have historical fee values that we assign to those based on what we know those cases are typically worth. And yeah, every case is different, right? But with enough numbers, you can get to a reasonable estimate for an individual case without knowing much about that individual case. And then you can just kind of look back and say, 3 quarters ago, how many of each case did we sign? And you can project the fees. It's not easy. It's not 100% accurate, but you can do it. Mike Morris has built a whole business on showing people how to project fees into the future. And so if you have the data, then you can get pretty comfortable with this is the right time to hire, but it doesn't make it any less emotionally scary.
So you mentioned a couple of like tools. You're starting your firm right now. What are the major tool buckets that you should have when your firm starts spending in marketing? Maybe you started it 6 months ago. You're starting to spend in marketing 3 to 6 months in. What are the tools you must have? Or even in theory, I'm not saying for you to say go buy Filevine or go buy this or
Yeah.
buy that, but what are the major buckets?
It depends on where you're going to spend that money in marketing. For most solo and small law firm owners, I think paid advertising, paid digital advertising is a waste of money. Especially if you don't have somebody good on the phones handling your intake, which most firms do not.
Mhm.
And so if I were 6 months in and I were like, where's my next case going to come from? I would spend all my money on lunches with, with possible referral sources. Um, and then I would have some kind of a relationship management tool in the background. Now, I'll be honest with you, we haven't found the perfect one for us. We use Lead Docket for cases that are coming in. We have Filevine for cases that are in, but we haven't found a great solution for a tool that maintains relationships and for a tool that tracks like, hey, when is the last time we sent something out to that lawyer? We're using Notion right now. It's not perfect. It's not really built for that. And so if you have something that can be either a tickler or what we would like it to do is categorize people by lists. If it had some email functionality, amazing. And then have some note tracking functionality so that I can remember when's the last time I sent you something.
I feel like I mean, B2C is
That's
more
exactly right.
B2C is your pipeline of leads that you have locked in. So that's clean. That's a hard thing to do. So that's great. B2B is a whole different relationship tracking process.
Mm-hmm.
We use Salesforce,
Mm-hmm.
opportunities and accounts, but Salesforce is a lot of work. I mean, it's
That's
always
right.
a lot of work, but
That's
I think
right. So
HubSpot is like a really nice balance. We also have HubSpot for like our marketing cloud stuff. But yeah, it is different to track the B2B side compared to the B2C. It was a huge learning experience for me, at least.
Well, HubSpot and Salesforce are probably overbuilt for what we need. And in like we use Infusionsoft, which is now Keep. We use that forever in Great Legal Marketing. We still use it in GLM. And the law firm was on it for a while. In fact, the law firm, there was a time where we were using that as the case management software, which is nuts.
Wow.
Uh, and for now, and then we got to a point where we were kind of tracking it in Excel, but we had like 3 different Excel sheets across 3 different people. And so we've landed on Notion, which for our size fits, but again, it's not perfect.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's you started by asking like what tools would you
Yeah.
invest in early on? Um, I would invest, uh, knowing what I know now, I would invest early on in a lead docket and in somebody who was excellent at answering the phone and signing cases.
I completely agree. If you spend money in marketing and create leads, you're going to lose your mind if you let them slip through the cracks on the intake
Mhm.
department. So,
Mhm.
all right, transition in the future, and we're going to wrap up. Okay.
Yep.
So, what right now you're saying that you're branded in a car accident personal injury law firm.
Yep.
So what does a car accident injury law firm need to do in 5 years to remain profitable?
Yeah, who knows? who, who knows, right? The existential threat to our industry, which sounds bad when you say it out loud, is that cars will stop hitting each other, or that they will, 90% of them will stop hitting each other. And it's not going to happen all at once,
Nope.
because there are 98, Toyota Camrys riding around that have no crash avoidance technology whatsoever. But that's the existential risk to the industry, is that, the hundreds of thousands of crashes that happen throughout the country every day, which is how we make money, just stop happening. Um, or stop happening over time. And I think, the response that I typically hear is, well, you just sue the manufacturer. Well, if you ever handle a product's liability claim, those are prohibitively expensive for 99%
No
of,
guarantee.
well, and there, with the engineers that you would have to hire to bring a claim against Tesla for crash avoidance, like, good luck. Um, so I think there's some risk that this practice area, probably not, definitely not in 5 years, but in 15 years, that it just goes away. And in Virginia, we really don't have slip and fall cases because we're a contributory negligence state. So if the store should have seen the water, you should have seen the water. So who knows? And medical malpractice cases also are prohibitively expensive, and we have a cap. Um, what do they need to do to, but in the meantime, Ethan, I think there's never been a better time to be a personal injury lawyer, because so much of what we do, so much of the mundane can be automated. In terms of records collection, is easier and cheaper than it ever was. And there
Mhm.
was a time where it used to cost you $1,200 to collect medical records, because you had to pay all the hospitals and all the doctors, 15 cents a page. We're not doing that, I don't think, at all anymore. Um, there was a time where you had to have somebody in the US banging the phones all the time to get those records to show up. You don't have to do that anymore. And
Still
then
do.
at least in Virginia, they've increased the limits and made underinsured motorist coverage stackable. So it's a great time to be a personal injury lawyer in Northern Virginia. So what do you need to do to remain profitable? I think continually working on one of three things: generating more leads, converting more of those leads, or making your current cases more valuable, which means either working with your clients to make sure you don't have gaps in treatment, which I know you're very good at, um, or managing your systems and processes to get medical records and things and liens and everything through the pipeline, so that when the client is done with their medical care, the case is ready to go to the insurance company within a month, 2 months max. And then having a good system on the back end, so that you have good follow up and you're getting these cases settled and you're making the cash flow. So if you're not constantly working on one of those three things — more leads, more conversion, or better process — I think you're losing money.
I completely agree. Um, Got to get more in the funnel, jam up the funnel, and close people. And people who will follow up more will be relevant. I feel like in 5 years, the car accident decline. I mean, it's not just that there's more demand than ever, and every day more people want those cases than ever. It's that now there's a lot more money coming from a lot more sources going after them. So the cost per case, even if it stayed the same for the next 5 years, is going to go up 100, 150, 200 per year moving forward.
Mhm.
Um, but also, people just are willing and able to spend more to get them. So as the number of them go down, that 150 to 200 becomes 500 a year, until it becomes $10,000 to acquire a case that your average legal fee is 7,000.
Mhm.
So it's a crazy thing to watch happening from the outside. Um, my gut is there are these other practice areas that will still exist, and also the product liability firm that does have the resources to hire that engineer. I still think that boutique firm will exist for a
Oh,
pretty
for sure.
long time. But I feel like the general branded auto firm, you know, sort of the same conversation with recruiting. Like, now's the time to be shifting a little in branding to be ready for that. That's just how I feel about it.
Yeah, the thing is I don't want to go and do anything else. Everything else, I mean, honestly, everything else seems hard. And it's I guess this only doesn't seem hard because I've been doing it for 17 years, right? And you have this knowledge base of spinal injuries and brain injuries and procedures and all these things that I
That
would have
still translates though.
in family law if I did family law for the last 17 years. But going and learning something new in a new area of the law, I don't know that I want to do that. So my goal is to make a bunch of money in the next 5 to 7 years and then have it not matter.
Well, I hear you. I think it's going to be interesting to watch it shake out. This is going to be an evolving conversation year over year. So, but all right, moving forward. So of the AI products, and then we're going to be done for today. All right,
Mhm.
AI products out on the market. You go to AAJ, you go to PAJ, and 2/3 of the tables now are
Yeah.
AI products. And I'm seeing a new one pop up every day I go to anything. What are sort of the buckets of AI products you think people should have their eye on right now and considering for their firm, um,
Yeah.
that you think are going to stick around for a while?
That's a great question. Um, so I don't think any of the generative demand writing or medical chronology stuff is very good in 2025. I think it will get good, but I think um, there's nothing that we're investing in that creates stuff for us that I'm very happy with. I do I like Filevine's AI summary thing, where I can upload a bunch of stuff to the file and then ask their AI questions about my file, and it'll point me to things. And I think that allows you to scale a little bit more and handle more cases and not be intimately familiar with the details of
I
individual.
more per lawyer. It's significant.
Yeah. Um, I use ChatGPT all the time, um, which is no longer novel. But I use it as a thought partner. I use it to, hey, I have kind of this half formed idea and I have two examples that I'd like to use, but give me a third analogy, right?
Mhm.
Or I'll use it for case themings where I'll tell it about a case and then ask it to come up with some analogies or some alliteration that you can use at trial. I will occasionally like run a deposition outline through it and say, what am I missing? And you get some good stuff. But and then we use like Opus Pro to cut up clips for social media and that kind of thing. But that's how I'm using AI right now. I think the um the stuff that will be interesting, Ethan, I don't see it in the next couple of years doing intake very well, but I do think it'll do follow up better than we do. Um,
I have something I could cue you in on that I'm working on that side. But yes, I agree with you.
yeah, I think, and I'm big on the human touch, right? So if it's if it is not um if it's not quite human, I'm not I'm not interested. Unless it tells you, right? I think there's some value in saying, "Hey, I'm the AI assistant. Like, let me get you the right thing," but that's secondary to having an actual person do it. But I think there's some uses in follow up and in case management, medical management, where on the horizon, like that could be a really useful tool, cheaper than a human being.
Mhm. So sort of the consistent, repetitive touch points, almost survey requesting, uh,
Yes,
back end assisting in writing with human oversight. Be weary of the med chronos today, but they're not valuable. Is that what I'm hearing?
they're not valuable. I don't. I think the challenge is that they don't know what we know. And so it's hard to distinguish in it. Let's take 1,000-page medical record. It's hard for the AI to know what's important for the car crash case. And maybe that's better in the last 3 months. It's been 3 months since I looked at it. And every 6 months, things seem to get much, much better. So maybe I'm wrong about that now. But I think every product that I've been shown the salesperson of the product claimed that it did 8 things that it didn't actually do.
Mhm. There is a just explosion of, I mean, I looked at my LinkedIn the other day. I deleted the app, every social media app off my phone for like the last
Mm.
45 days. And I opened up LinkedIn, I had 115 requests and I looked through them and like 70 of them were a new AI product I had no idea about.
Mhm.
It feels very .com, but there will be a few that survive that are important. So, I feel like the flood's here. It's
Yeah.
starting and really getting worse every day, but like, don't not pay attention at all. That's kind of where I'm at with it.
Oh, yeah, you can't not pay attention at all. Yeah. That's how you get left behind.
Mhm.
I yes, conferences are overwhelming now because 2/3 of them are AI products, right? Um,
And they
but you
overlap a lot, a lot.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
But you can't put your head in the sand either.
no. Well, Brian, thank you for spending today here. Is there any way that you can have people, well, first here, I'm going to pause here. Tell us why somebody should refer you a case to your law firm.
Ah, so the thing that I trade on, Ethan, is best customer service that you'll find anywhere in any law firm in Virginia. And what I tell people is you have no way of gauging whether I got you as good a result or a better result or a worse result than anybody else, whether it took me longer or shorter or the right amount of time, but you do know how you felt the whole way. And you can compare that against how you felt like when you took out a mortgage or you went to your orthopedist or any other customer service transactional thing that you've done in your life. Right. And so I want to have my clients be in a position where they never really have to ask what is going to happen next because we've told them and we've got tools like Hona, not Tona. We've got tools that push notifications out to them. We've done a great job of educating them so that they know what's coming next, right? And because when people are thrust into our world, right, often for the first time, find themselves needing a lawyer, not knowing what to do, it's the not knowing that's really the scary part. It's not, am I going to get $50,000 or $53,000? Like that part, I don't think really matters at the end of the day to how they felt about the service as much as did I know what was going to happen and was I comfortable with it every step of the way? So you refer a case here, you can rest assured that not only will the client know what's going to happen, but also if you're a lawyer and we're paying a referral fee and you can accept the referral fee in your jurisdiction, we're also going to update you every step of the way about what's going on with the path. Because when you have the number of cases on the streets that I know that you have, like if you're referring into a black box, it's very hard for you to grow your business and have predictable cash flow if you're not getting updates back from the
Literally
firms that you
working on
referred into.
a bound referral cash flow model right now. So it's very hard.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it. Anybody generating a Virginia case, let Brian's firm take a look at it. I trust Brian with cases. I'm going to be starting to send him more stuff down in Virginia myself. I can't say that I've sent him a lot historically, but I will say that I do want to definitely give it a try even myself. So uh, if you have a case down in Virginia, let Brian's firm take a look at it. I'll make sure that there's an easy way to get in contact with him on this show. Well, thanks for being here today, Brian. Anything else you want to leave our listeners with?
No, man, I appreciate you having me.
Awesome.